You've seen the bakes, the meltdowns, the enormous messes, and the incredible comebacks. But making a show that runs as smoothly as the Great British Bake Off takes a lot of help behind the scenes, and maybe some deodorizing spray. It's common to hear the contestants chatting about how much they've practiced their creations beforehand.
It's been through many versions of this, so it started as a loop-the-loop, then I went for a curve, but eventually I just settled on into a straight dive.
It may seem odd, considering the competitive nature of the show, but every baker comes to the tent with recipes and prior experience creating both their signature bake and showstopper. Of course, there are a few twists that keep things exciting for viewers, even with the advanced run-throughs. Most notable are the conditions in the tent. Since the show is filmed during summer months, viewers frequently notice the bakers complaining about how the heat alters their ingredients. There's also no guarantee that the hours of prep work translate to a smooth reproduction once filming begins. Even after testing out their creations in their home environments, bakers can always run into mishaps, ranging from forgotten ingredients to overproof dough to ovens that don't work as expected.
God, this is a mess.
All of this makes for great viewing, of course. Despite the bakers' best efforts ahead of filming day, there's still a sense of relief when things go to plan, and a palpable tension when they don't. One of the biggest mysteries of the show is what happens to all the delicious creations after the cameras stop rolling. Viewers only see judges enjoying a bite or two as they assess the quality. So where do all the finished baked goods end up? It turns out the bakers do actually get to dig into their own bakes after the fact. An executive for the show makes sure the contestants' lunchroom receives a basket filled with samples of all the tasty treats featured on the show. Not only does this give the bakers a chance to indulge in their own recipes, it also lets them sample what their fellow competitors have been working on. The crew also gets in on the good stuff, a sweet reward for all the hard work it took to put the show together.
I'm had enough of my lunch, well done.
Thank you.
I want you to keep me this bit for my lunch.
Keep me that bit. Thank you.
In an even bigger behind-the-scenes reveal, the technicians working for the show have to make sure the ovens are fully functional, which means they bake a Victoria sponge cake every single day, one in every oven. It's a full-blown sugar fest for whoever can stomach all of it. Exactly who does the dishes on Bake Off? You see plenty of messes made as bakers plough through utensils and appliances during every segment. What you don't see is how the stations are put back in order before the next bake happens. With up to a dozen countertops in constant use, the magic of television makes it appear as if it all gets tidied up by a team of unseen helpers. In reality, the team is relatively small, but powerful. And with tricky editing, the multiple hours in between bakes where runners are hurriedly prepping stations for the next bake are snipped out. The finished effect on film makes it seem as though the kitchens are always ready, no matter how much of a mess was made only minutes before. In 2024, the official GBBO TikTok account paid tribute by turning the camera toward a key crew member named Gina, dubbed the Chief Sparkleizer for the show. To make sure this behind-the-scenes kitchen magician feels fully appreciated, host Alison Hammond presented her with her own miniaturized version of the glass cake stand trophy, a sweet way to shine the spotlight on a crucial and otherwise unseen crew member. Why wouldn't the show spring for automated machine dishwashers to get the job done, you ask? Due to the baked-on ingredients that don't always surrender to machine washing, elbow grease bests mechanical grease for getting everything back in shipshape.
Back for another week, here I am.
It may look like each episode is shot in a single day, but in reality, it's 2 days worth of footage cleverly edited together into one cohesive show. And one of the sneakiest details in the whole operation turns out to be the attire. To keep visuals consistent, the contestants wear the same clothes all weekend while on camera. It's a wild realization that, once made, may change the way you view the show forever. On one hand, it's a busy and potentially sweaty 2-day process to finish an entire episode. Imagine running around a tent outdoors during an English summer all Saturday, then having to do it again on Sunday while wearing the same outfit. The prospect isn't anywhere nearly as savory as the bakes being created, and none of that accounts for spills and smears that skip the apron and make shirts and pants even dirtier. It would be nice to think these hard workers get to toss their dirty clothes in a washing machine on Saturday night in order to have them clean again for Sunday morning, but it appears the bakers re-wear their dirty clothing on day 2 without the luxury of a freshen-up in between. Chefs in the tent are amateurs by nature. The introduction even calls them out as the best home bakers, to ensure viewers know there are no professionals competing for the gleaming glass cake stand trophy. This means that contestants juggle their baking responsibilities for the show during the weekend while maintaining their regular careers and jobs during the remainder of the week.
When Sandro, a fitness fanatic from East London, isn't hitting the gym, he works as a full-time nanny.
Since zipping back and forth isn't always efficient for the competitors who have to shoot between 13 and 16 hours per day over the weekend, they stay in a hotel overnight between Saturday and Sunday. If it's even half as exhausting as it sounds, it makes the fact that these talented bakers are able to perform so admirably even more incredible. But wait, there's more. To prepare for their adventures in the tent, they all have to somehow make time during the week to practice their signature and showstopper bakes and shop for ingredients. This bake-off stuff is not for the faint of heart. Overnight fame is as integral to the Great British Bake Off as flour, eggs, and soggy bottoms. Picking a favourite and rooting for them to survive the tribulations of Bread Week whilst under the taut white canopy of the bake-off tent is part of what makes the show so enjoyable. Fortunately, the arduous audition process ensures that the final 12 contestants are capable of coping with the sudden global attention, primarily through a meeting with the show's psychologist prior to filming. And for some, the spotlight does not fade, but only intensifies with time. Nadia Hussain is one such contestant. Labelled the nation's sweetheart, Hussain has given a masterclass in how to use a cooking show to permanently change your life. She had the best start possible, winning season 6 in impressive fashion. After her victory, she wasted no time in returning to the television screen, hosting a 2-part travelogue titled The Chronicles of Nadia on BBC One. Hussain has solidified her place among Britain's culinary superstars, even making a cake for the Queen's 90th birthday.
My dad now introduces me as, this is the daughter that made the cake for the Queen. I don't even have a name anymore.
With an MBE for Services to Broadcasting and the Culinary Arts to her name, Hussain shows no signs of slowing down and remains a near-permanent fixture on TV screens throughout Britain and beyond. How many times have you watched Bake Off and then instantly gone to the store to stock your cupboards full of ingredients you had never previously heard of? If the answer is frequently, rest assured that you do not stand alone. The Bake Off effect, a term coined to describe the sudden surge in sales of products used on the show, has firmly taken root in the United Kingdom. As reported by The Express, the 2015 season alone caused a 33% leap in sales of salted caramel sauce, a 180% spike for Peruvian golden berries, and a 300% increase in the sales of crystallized ginger. Whilst a boost in baking essentials such as flour and cooking chocolate is a common feature with each season, the surge in unusual ingredients is much harder to predict. And as supermarkets get no warning as to what ingredients are going to be used in the upcoming season, many are left scrambling to stock up on previously unknown and unstocked items. Morrison's takes the Bake Off effect extremely seriously. In fact, in 2016, they appointed a Bake Off officer to monitor the show for buying trends. We wouldn't be human if we didn't occasionally imagine ourselves striding confidently into the Bake Off tent, maybe even high-fiving host Noel Fielding on the way. But realising this dream is not as simple as you may think. As Season 8 finalist Stephen Carter-Bailey revealed, the application process is pretty gruelling. Detailing the process, he told Mashed, constant questions, interviews, credit checks, police checks, health checks, psychiatric checks, ability checks. You're constantly going down in front of cameras, getting checked for stress levels. As reported by Telemix, the audition process for the Great British Bake Off in 2022 involved a set of strict rules. For example, contestants could not make their living as a professional baker, chef or cook, and could not have acquired a cooking qualification within the 10 years prior to their application.
Never baked before, let alone competitively, let alone on Bake Off.
Even after meeting these requirements and completing a long application form, contestants still have a phone interview to look forward to before being invited to London for further interviews and a screen test. Applicants are also obligated to bring some of their own bakes for this visit, at their own cost. Talk about stressful.
Can you tell us about your flapjack, please?
Started making it, had a breakdown. Bon appetit.
Bake Off is just as much about the people as it is about the cakes, and this fact has not been lost on the production team. Throughout the show's 12 seasons, contestants of all ages, professions, body types, sexualities, and ethnicities have been represented. More importantly, the series never turns a person's diversity into a sob story for entertainment value. For instance, 2018 semi-finalist Bryony Williams' limb difference was given so little focus by the production team that many viewers didn't even notice it until after the 3rd episode. The show has also come to represent a modern, ethnically diverse British population, which has been used as a counter to anti-immigration rhetoric. Global Citizen has even highlighted the importance that the show's inclusion of all British identities brings. The sight of Paul Hollywood and Prue Leith sitting around the table with a perfectly formed, impeccably baked technical challenge in front of them is the endearing image of the Great British Bake Off. Despite viewers being led to believe otherwise, the judges do not take turns baking the masterpieces themselves. In actuality, the judges never bake the example cakes themselves. It all boils down to timing. Shooting days are so long and the judges' efforts are usually required elsewhere, so it doesn't make sense to have them working in a kitchen for hours. Instead, the baking is done by the show's home economics team, whose ability is readily apparent for all who watch the show. Unfortunately, they also get stuck with more mundane tasks, which include cooking Paul Hollywood's breakfast and reviewing all the contestants' planned signature and showstopper recipes. They also must source all the necessary ingredients and equipment. It's worth noting that the team begins sourcing ingredients up to 2 months before the show starts. Bake Off is built upon a competitive but friendly environment. Bunting flaps in the wind, contestants hug and support each other, while hosts have been known to cry when their new friends are voted off the show. In short, the Great British Bake Off is a testament to the undeniable power of decency in stressful situations. Unfortunately, the goodwill demonstrated on the show is not always reflected by those watching. Bullying of the contestants on social media by so-called fans is a depressingly familiar occurrence. The most infamous incident was undoubtedly the bullying of contestant Laura Adlington, who made the final in 2020. Paul Hollywood stepped in to label the behaviour disgusting. The 2021 season finale of Bake Off drew an audience of over 7 million viewers. As a result, it's not hard to see why the famed baking show has inspired the BBC to launch many other similar television programmes. Most of these shows follow a familiar format wherein several amateur enthusiasts battle through a range of challenges, with one person being eliminated each week until a champion is crowned. However, despite sticking to a tried and tested formula, the broadcasting company's endeavours have been met with mixed results. The Great British Sewing Bee, which markets itself as the ultimate sewing battle, has done reasonably well, receiving a boost of viewers in the shape of aspiring enthusiasts during the lockdown. Yet, the show has struggled to reach a wider audience due to the seeming less accessible challenges. Unsurprisingly, it is one thing to bake a Victoria sponge, and quite another to attempt to sew a whole outfit. Unfortunately, another of the BBC's Bake Off-inspired gambits fared much worse than Sewing Bee. The Great Pottery Throwdown, which sought to ignite a national passion for pottery making, really struggled to capture that Bake Off magic and was axed in 2018. Bake Off's rip-roaring success is now so all-encompassing that it is hard to imagine anyone doubting its ability to thrive on the small screen. But it has recently become apparent that there are many who did. Anne Beattie, who came up with the original idea behind the Great British Bake Off, pitched the show for a whole 4 years until it was accepted.
It's the first time the bakers have really got to impress us and really show us what they can do.
As for the inspiration behind the show, Beattie's friend reportedly told her about bake-offs that took place in the US. Beattie decided to match this competitive structure with a very British village fete. The killer combination of judges Mary Berry and Paul Hollywood, who couldn't believe his luck when he got the callback, were then added. Hollywood told the Daily Mail that everyone was shocked by the show's meteoric rise. For Beattie, it must have seemed like all those long years pitching had finally paid off. If you think that being a contestant on the show is difficult, then please spare a thought for the production team who have the Herculean task of capturing the frantic action of 12 very stressed bakers. Even with multiple cameras in the tent and every contestant wearing a mic, the production team is bound to miss a few things. But they have a few strategies in place to mitigate these losses and ensure that key moments are not the ones being missed. First and foremost amongst these is a rule that states all contestants must signal a camera to capture the moment a bake is put in the oven and the moment it's taken out. This is why you so often hear a contestant utter the famous line, "I'm going in."
The mixture is still liquid.
However, despite the crew's best efforts, not everything can be captured in real time, meaning that the production team sometimes asks contestants to repeat certain actions. This type of tweaking is commonplace in nearly all cooking and reality shows. From soggy bottoms to hot buns, innuendo has been a part of Bake Off since its inception. Not only is it a vital part of what makes the show work, but it's also a reflection of British banter as a whole. Paul Hollywood agrees, telling The Guardian, "British culture has always been based off it. Carry On films did it for 30 years. It's in our DNA to giggle at ourselves." And giggle at themselves they certainly do. In fact, a recent comment made by Prue Leaf left Hollywood in stitches, demonstrating that the newer members of the show are more than happy to uphold Bake Off's racy tradition.
No matter what it is, it's going in.
For some viewers, these jokes are far from funny, with a few suggesting that in recent seasons, Bake Off has become far too smutty. But for the majority of viewers, the banter helps make the show so endearing.